Welcome everybody to Yield Today with Down Canland. I'm here with Rhett. How do you say your last name?
Beswick.
Beswick. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Rhett Beswick. He's a sales manager, trainer, leader over at Vantage. Really impressed with him and excited to jump into our conversation today about building a vision for your life and just bouncing back from all of the struggles and stuff that Rhett's faced. So thanks for coming on, Rhett.
Yeah, thanks, Dallin. Thanks for having me.
You got it. You got it. So we met around a year ago. I was walking around campus and you came over and just were super nice, genuine, and really cared about where I was and how I was as a person. And we just kind of kept in touch. We reconnected recently and told me you have this wonderful story about overcoming pornography and just having vision for your life and stuff. And I was really excited about that because we haven't really talked about that much on the podcast, and it's definitely something that needs to be talked about more. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. But I'm glad you came on.
Yeah, I'm glad you're willing to have me.
No, yeah, for sure. So let's kind of go back to growing up, Rhett. What was growing up, Rhett, like? Number of children or growing up and everything. How was that for you?
Yeah. We moved around a bit when I was younger, and then around 10 we ended up over in Boise. So I got two brothers right in the middle. Or all three of us are all really close together. And then my parents were great. We did lots of family stuff together, camping, boating, all kinds of fun,
Mm-hmm.
boy stuff, playing baseball growing up, and so yeah, it was a real fun childhood. Got in some trouble,
Yeah.
some scrapes, cliff jumping, doing some crazy things.
Yeah.
So, I think what you would expect of some boys kind of growing up in Idaho and getting out there and having fun. But yeah, I have great parents. They love me. They taught me to work hard, raised me to be honest and good, and yeah, they were great parents. But for me, at the end of the day, as great as they were, for me growing up, they weren't enough. And I don't say that in like a mean way. I say that more in, I think it's the way it's supposed to be. I don't think parents are ever going to be everything they can be for the kids or their children, what they need. And I say that as a parent. I got
Mm-hmm.
4 kids and 1 on the way, so I know.
Congrats.
I recognize my own failings, but I think that's the way God intended it. Is that at the end of the day, our parents aren't going to be enough, and we need to turn to Him, because He's the only one that can really fill everything that we need and be there for us. And so that was me growing up, and had great experiences, but also carried, I think, a lot of wounds from my childhood, and in moments where I felt like I didn't quite fit in with my family, or moments where I felt like maybe I wasn't good enough, or popular enough, or fast enough, or some of these things where I struggled in who I was and my identity. And so I all of the good things that were there in my childhood, there were some of the other things that were hard, and as a kid wasn't quite sure how to deal with those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, that's always a kind of tough time because you're still kind of growing up, in embryo, so many skills and different things, and you're like, what is going to happen with my life? So yeah, I can imagine there's a ton of like stresses and discomfort, of different things, and definitely, feelings of not fitting in. So that makes a lot of sense. So you moved to Boise when you were 10. I've lived in Boise when I was a missionary for a little bit of time. I really liked it there. I'm sure it was a lot different, a little bit different when you were there, but
It's grown a lot. Yeah. We moved there in '99, so quite a while ago. It's crazy to see.
mm-hmm.
Where my parents live right now was a field. Where I live right now, I can remember it was just grass fields and kids playing soccer on it on Saturdays, and now there's houses all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
If there's one moment from your childhood that you just really good, really awesome, you want to remember forever, what would it be? And it doesn't have to be like any yeah, it could be just pretty much any memory that comes to mind.
Oh, some good memories is my dad grew up in Southern California, so every year growing up we'd go camping on the beach in Southern California. And so probably some of my greatest family, like childhood memories, is like me, my dad, my brothers out on boogie boards or surfboards, just hanging out, chatting, laughing, waiting for the waves to roll in. So,
That's we love to hear that kind of stuff. That's cool. I have some memories of like jumping in waves with my uncles early in the morning,
yeah.
back East Coast, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's really good stuff. Really good stuff. So, you go into your teen years. I'm sure you have some struggles, and there's a lot of times I'm sure where you had the chance to like turn things over to God, or just kind of face it on your own, or turn to your parents. And we mentioned how parents are not enough. I guess, what were some of the thoughts going through your mind as you started to go through those pivotal teen years?
Yeah. I for me, I got to, I think like pivotal change, and for me was around middle school. So I remember getting to middle school, not having a whole lot of friends, to begin with. Everything's new. The few friends that I did have from elementary school were all in other classes that I didn't even see anymore. And so this was, when was this? This would have been like 2002, maybe 2001. And so internet was pretty new. We had computer class, and so all the kids in computer class were looking at porn. That's in
Really?
seventh grade.
Seventh grade.
And so
Oh,
that was my first. Had some exposure to it younger, in fourth grade. A neighbor's friend's mom, was kind of doing some stuff, and so that was my first like real exposure. But by seventh grade, yeah, all the kids in computer class were looking at porn, and the teacher wasn't paying any attention. And I didn't have any friends, and didn't know quite what to do, and wouldn't have much self confidence at the time. So I just started looking at it with them to kind of fit in and
yeah.
be one of the guys, and I didn't really know what else to do, but I knew it was wrong, but I didn't feel I didn't know how to not be part of it. I didn't know what to do instead, and then I had too much fear and also shame, because I knew what I was doing was wrong, to actually talk to my parents or talk to anybody about it. So yeah, so that from seventh grade, being really exposed, and started looking at it to fit in. But after a year or so, like eighth grade, ninth grade, it changed from just doing it to fit in to looking at it on my own, because I realized that, hey, this actually makes me feel different than I've ever felt before, or maybe it numbs some of these unwanted feelings that I've been dealing with and not sure how to cope with. And it became, for me, hey, it was my coping mechanism. So,
Yeah, I personally have struggled a little bit with pornography myself, and I do appreciate what you've shared. Those computer classes, like, like I don't know. I think they're a lot better at watching that now, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense, honestly.
yeah, there were no filters back 2001.
Hmm. Well, that's like just like very beginning of the internet.
Yeah, it was pretty new.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like the earliest computer I remember my family getting was probably like 2003 or 4 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing was slow. It was so slow. there was but yeah, it's crazy how, because like it's like I think it's so easy to see it as a coping mechanism, but really what it does is it just puts your brain into overdrive, and it puts all these things at such a high capacity that we can't even control it anymore. Like kind of like how fast food is, and how these other things are, and how a lot of TV is. It just puts those feelings into overdrive, and it makes it so like your normal is like so high comparison. Like I remember that age, I didn't know what dopamine was. I didn't know what serotonin was. I didn't know what all these like super feel good important chemicals.
Yeah.
I didn't know what they were. And yeah, so that's a crazy thing. Like there's people that are making billions and billions of dollars off of kids that, don't have the discipline, or just in a bad situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, at 12 years old, I mean, how much do you really know what you're doing and what you're getting yourself into and setting yourself up for? Like, I had no idea at 12 years old, and yeah.
Dude, the brain doesn't finish developing until we're like 20,
25, right?
yeah, like 25. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, it's crazy, and it's hard to just keep moving on. I think sometimes when you have that stuff in your mind, I have a super good memory. I still have memories of different things, and so often it happens where you're just so innocently, you just kind of walk in and was you weren't looking for it. It's just like, it's like a bad guy at your house. Like he just shows up, So anyway, how did you how were you able to start to let go of that? What was your healing process like? What was some of that like for you?
Yeah, I'll give you how maybe a quick
Yeah.
further the story. I guess a little bit of all the how that impacted me. I mean, I around so 13, 14 started actively looking, seeking it out, and then by high school, it's like, hey, I realized this is a problem, and would do certain things to try to, like white knuckle, like force myself to stop looking at it. And no matter what I tried, like nothing like ever eventually. The minute I had access to it, I would indulge, and so I got to getting ready to go on a mission, and finally at that point I was like, okay, I guess I better talk to my bishop about this and maybe he can help. I hadn't talked to anybody about it, and I got from him. He was a great bishop, but I think still, this was 2008 when I went on my mission, so I think the church was still pretty new, trying to figure out what to do or how to respond. So I got, read your scriptures and don't look at it. I was like,
Okay.
Well, I never thought of that one before, kind of. So, I mean, I think there was some grace there, and I can't remember, 2 months, 3 months, something told me like, hey, don't look at this, and we can send me your papers, and I had a couple relapses or stuff there, so it took me a little longer to submit my papers, but finally I was able to, and struggled a little on my mission, but for the most part it was pretty much gone on my mission, and that was, hey, fantastic, like, hey, got this all taken care of, it's all gone. I got back from my mission, and took me maybe all of 4 months, and that might be being generous, maybe 2 months, to really get right back into it. It didn't really go anywhere. Just kind of, not long term. Just kind of went away for a bit, and I think missions are special to help, with some of that focus. But when it came back, that's when a lot of the shame and feeling just like a failure and a disappointment to God really, I think, really set in. How could I go on my mission, have all these wonderful experiences, and now I'm coming back and I'm doing this? Like, something must be like seriously wrong with me. I must be just a terrible person type of thoughts. And those carried on for quite a while. A couple years after, and this is really speaking the story, a couple years after my mission, got married, thought, oh, if I get married, this will all go away. It didn't. 6 months into marriage, started looking again, and then there was this constant battle for quite a few years, and probably the first 6 years of our marriage was just trying to do everything I could to stop, but trying to do it all on my own, all my way. My wife knew a little, but I didn't really open up, and I didn't want to open up to anyone. I didn't want to talk about it. I just wanted God to just take it all away, and I kept asking him to take it all away, and he never did. And so, I know, maybe 6 years into marriage, got to, I think, this breaking point where angry at God, angry at life, angry at myself, and I think I finally got to this point where like I was willing to do whatever it took to get rid of it, and if that meant like being completely honest with my wife, and if that meant doing something, going to counseling or whatever it was, like I was kind of getting to that point, and so started going to some 12-step meetings, and like committed to going every week. And I think it was like baby steps. It was like, all right, God, you haven't taken away yet, so I'm going to go to 12 steps every week, and you take it away. And after a year, it was still there, but I went every week. I was like, okay, wow. Well, maybe I'll actually start working on some of these steps very slowly. I went for like a year and didn't actually like open the book. I just went to the Sunday meetings. And so it was some of these baby steps to get to the point of like, okay, now I'll actually like be honest with my wife and tell her, and actually I'll do this, and okay, let's move. We actually moved. We were living in California for the first bit of our marriage, and we moved back to Idaho. And hey, let's go and pay whatever I need to pay. We'll go do some counseling and start doing some of these things. And that willingness to do whatever it takes was what was kind of set me on the road to recovery. And then we can talk more about some of those other steps along the road. But it was finally getting to that broken part where everything I've tried isn't working, and at least not my way's not, and slowly I'll try it your way, God.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're it's easy to think that we're smarter than God, or that our plan is, better than his. It's a little bit quicker. We'll get to the destination quicker. It'll be better. But, you think of like a family going on a road trip or something. Like, you got the GPS, and the GPS knows what's up. If you think you have a better idea than the GPS, it's probably not going to work out super well for you. But I do want to highlight something that you shared, just that you went to these meetings, but that you didn't even start acting on any of the material. Like, but yet I'm sure the angels and God and everybody's like clapping like all day long about that, because that is progress, that is movement, that is momentum. And I'm sure this is something you teach in your sales enablement and managing and stuff, is like just taking action, knocking on the door. Like, that will make so much of the fear go away. And so much of it's in our heads too. Like, we think about it and we just are just like, we start thinking about it, and all of a sudden where it was a tiny little, like a peanut, now it's like an elephant, where it's like sitting on our brain all day long, whereas it used to be like a little peanut. And it just grows as we give it that attention.
I agree.
Yeah. So, well, way to go on pulling through and learning from that struggle. How has this kind of led to what you're doing now, building vision for your life, and how's this changed how you see the world being free from pornography?
I think some like the big things I learned in recovery was first, I always thought that my problem was just the looking at porn. I thought, like, if I could just stop this looking at porn thing, then my life would be great. And I'm a pretty awesome guy, if it wasn't for this, like, yeah, I'm pretty much ready to go to Celestial Kingdom. Was my mindset, which isn't true. But for me, as I went through it, I really learned that the pornography use and all of the coping mechanisms were just symptoms of greater problems, and that was the unmet needs, the trauma that I wasn't dealing with in my life, and the negative beliefs about myself, the beliefs that, if anyone really knew me, they couldn't possibly love me. God, who definitely knows me, doesn't love me. I'm a disappointment to my family, to my wife, to my parents, to God. And those were like the limiting beliefs that would drive me back to it. Whenever that shame and those feelings would come up, I'd fight it off, but eventually I would turn to the porn to numb it out. But at the same time, not only would it numb it out, but it would also reinforce all those negative beliefs about myself. So it was like this very vicious cycle. And so getting to the point of recognizing those beliefs, recognizing the wounds that I was running from, some of that trauma as a childhood, and dealing with that through counseling and through journaling and through talking about it openly, really started healing those places in my heart, healing those negative beliefs about my identity, and so that helped me be willing to trust myself, to try something. So throughout most of this, the first part of our marriage, we graduated, we moved to California, and I worked for the government, sitting in a tiny cube, writing government contracts, hating life, hating everything, and just like, man, this can't be everything like life's supposed. Like, I think I was angry at the world a little bit, because I was like, everyone says like, oh, go to school, get a degree, get good grades, get a job, find a career, and everything will be great. It's like, well, I did that, and I did all that stuff. I got a job. It was the government. It was super safe and secure, but at the end of the day, it was just so, for me, it just felt like there was more to life than showing up at my cube every day and then going home at the end and being tired and cranky and wanting to numb out with porn. So it had to be something more. And so through recovery, we finally got to this point after a couple years of recovery and really working it and counseling and going to groups, and had this opportunity I went to go do summer sales. I had a wife, 3 kids, and 1 on the way, and I was like, I think I'm going to quit my job and go do summer sales. Not your typical like way you go about it. I missed the summer sales gig in college. I turned it all down, but I had been, the last little bit of working for the government, I'd spend a lot of my time, I'd get all my work done, and then I'd get it sent off to everybody else, and while I was waiting for them to finish it and send it back to me, I'd spend that time on my computer reading, and reading different books, business books, investing books, mindset books, all kinds of stuff, just reading as much as I possibly could get, and I'd get my work done, send it off, and I'd go back to my reading.
That's sick.
And then, so I like to joke and say that the government paid for my education, because although I got a degree, I felt like I graduated like feeling very uneducated, because I just jumped through the hoops. I didn't put that much effort in. I was like, oh, I get a good degree, I'll get a job somewhere, and it wasn't much direction. So it was, I think, out of this necessity, this need to do something else and be something else in that job, is where, instead of numbing out, I started trying to educate myself and learn. And so got to this point the goal was to either start a business or buy a business, and I realized that I didn't have enough money to buy a business big enough to offset my income and like all my government benefits for like my wife and kids, and that I wasn't really sure how I'd be able to start a business working full time and having like the wife and kids. And I know I probably could have, but in my mind I just couldn't see it happening. Mm-hmm. So in Boise, I started knocking a little bit with this company just to test it. Like, I know that, and I also knew I didn't have like the sales skills, the communication skills, because I sat at my desk and I wrote a bunch of emails to people most of the day. That was like my main source of like communications, or like sitting in some meetings where other people talked and I'd listened. So like, okay, I need some sales skills. So I just started knocking a little in the evening with this company in Boise, and then I had and after, I remember telling my wife, I don't think I'm going to make any money, but I'm just going to keep doing it until I don't feel uncomfortable knocking on someone's door. And so I got to that point, and then I had some cousins that were doing pest control in Seattle. So I called up the owner and said, hey, I'm going to take a week vacation and come try this. And went out for a week, and in a week I made almost as much money in like 4 days of like knocking some pest control as I would like get after taxes and like a paycheck.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I think there's something here. So I got back and I told my wife, I think I'm going to try this. So with the government, you can take leave without pay. Mm-hmm. So I took 3.5 months leave without pay from the government, and I went out I left like my wife and kids at home in Boise, and I just went out to Seattle to go knock on doors for like 5 weeks and try it out. And so in 5 weeks, I did really, really well. I made way more than I would have made like staying at my job and like the rest of the year type of thing. Mm-hmm. So it was like really successful for us. And then like, okay, I think there's something here. We still had a little leave, so we spent a little time in October looking for maybe a business to do. We're still thinking that. And then there was an opportunity to go like sell pest control in Hawaii for like the month of November. Yeah. And we're like, yeah, let's do that. So that was just like this, like all of a sudden, like I think going there was like, wow, this is like a completely different life than either of us have ever experienced. There's opportunity here. I'm learning like real tangible skills that I didn't have, and I enjoy like these people that I'm like being around and being able to share some of my story about pornography with these young guys and younger than me and in college, where would have been so helpful for me to someone to like talk openly and honestly with me, but it never happened. So like I love that opportunity too. So there was so many things I was really enjoying. So the next year was 2020 when COVID hit. We quit our job in January, remodeled our kitchen in February and March, and then the lockdowns hit, and like we didn't have a job, but we needed to go sell. So the minute the lockdowns lifted, we went out to Seattle and sold like all summer long, and that was our first summer. It was, I think, one of the top rookies in the company, and top like 20 of all the sales reps in Vantage. So yeah, there's a little toot my own horn, but I had a lot of motivation. I had a wife, 3 kids, 1 on the way, and I think the work we'd put in the years before to get to that point, to have a vision of something better for our life, and the possibility that I wasn't destined to be just this failure forever, was set us up to have like such an awesome year, and really I think opened our eyes to what's possible, and yeah, just something better for us. So
Yeah. I love this beautiful contrast between Rhett, who's at a cubicle and still struggling a little bit, and then we have Rhett knocking doors in Hawaii, killing it, and just loving life. That's an amazing contrast, and I think it's so easy for like youth or college students who might be listening to this, or anybody else, to forget that there's a lot of really good people in this world that will open really good opportunities, and a lot of it is just jumping on the opportunities when they come, and really awesome stuff can come from that. And you made those sacrifices, and your vision also increased. You put in a lot of work, and that worked out. So yeah. Well, we don't want to forget about any of those who might be struggling with pornography or anything like that. What would you say to somebody that is struggling with that, or maybe has recurring thoughts of things, or is just kind of struggling with that still?
I think just knowing that you're not alone. I mean, if we look at just statistically, and say, 70 or more percent of males look at pornography, at least once a week, on a weekly basis, and surprisingly, like 50% of women. That seems crazy, but like statistically, like those are some of the numbers that are being reported, and so I think just knowing that you're not alone, you're not the only one struggling with it, is helpful. That was helpful for me. I think another thing that's helpful is just, I feel like sometimes from a religious standpoint, it's very easy to look at pornography use as like this like moral failing. There's something morally wrong with you. You must, not love God enough, or something like that. And I think that's wrong, because I think the vast majority of people that that start out are starting young anyways, where they don't even understand what's going on, and I think sometimes we do a disservice when we attach so much shame to pornography use. It really is a symptom of other deeper issues, and by just looking at the surface level, it's a lot. It's really hard to actually do anything about it. I was listening to a podcast that I really enjoyed, and he was talking about Adam and Eve in the garden, and he said, first he said, like, hey, in the church we like to give a lot of like practical advice. He was just a general Christian, generally in Christian churches we like to give practical advice. He said in the Garden of Eden, when God asked Adam after he ate, he didn't like give him some practical advice like, next time you see some really tempting like tree, just look away. He said, hey Adam, like, where are you? Like where are you? What's going on? Like, not just like physically, but I imagine it's like spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Like, where are you? And he said, oh, I heard your voice, and I hid myself because I was naked. I was like, oh, I heard you, and I was scared because I did something wrong, and then I was ashamed of what I did, so I went and hid. And it's like, oh, there's nothing. There's no shame in it. The shame is so false. It's not true. There's nothing wrong with you if you're looking at it. The problem, in the sense that like you're not a bad person. There's hope to overcome it. There's so much hope to overcome. There's so many resources. Be willing to talk to someone. Find someone that you trust. Maybe it's a friend or a roommate who's also struggling with it. Maybe it is finding a counselor and going and talking to them. Maybe it's it's someone that you trust that can know that you can be honest with you, and they're going to love you no matter what, and they're going to listen to you, and just talk about it and start talking about it, and go to meetings. There's so many meetings, and if you go to one and you didn't like it, go to a different one. There's so many. Like, pick one that you really like. I went to lots of them until I found the ones that I liked and the men that I connected with in there. So there's so many resources. And so that was a long answer, but like, don't beat yourself up. Don't hold on to the shame. Don't believe the lies that your mind's probably telling you that there's something wrong with you and you're a terrible human being, because those aren't true. You're not. And just find someone you can talk to it about.
That's really good. Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that if that's happened, like it's really just a loss of a battle. Your war of life is still happening. There's battles every day. Every day is a battle. If you lose one battle, it does not make you a terrible soldier or a terrible commander of your life. There's still so many battles ahead, and with when I've struggled, and not really just with that, just like with negative thoughts, or I walk into a room, my roommates are watching something, like, why the heck are you guys watching that? Is I'm going to like plan ahead so this does not happen again. Like, okay, maybe I don't come home this late at night. Maybe I put my phone in the kitchen or whatever, and just do little stuff like that, and that empowers you to win the next one, gives you a lot of peace, or the next battle, excuse me, and that gives you a lot of peace. And I think that's one of the hardest things is it's so easy to suffer in silence, but I think if people just got out of their shell and just even showed up and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," I cannot imagine like how beautiful of a moment that would be for that person to hear somebody like talking with you. If somebody got to talk with you like I'm talking with you, as somebody that has struggled with it and somebody who's also struggled with it to a certain degree, is just that there is hope. There is really alive hope. There's hope for true love. There's hope for true happiness. There's hope for true joy. And what has been put in the movies and whatever, it really is nothing compared to what is actually possible for somebody. That's all put into a movie, theatrically orchestrated, but it's nothing compared to like the natural, thing that flows when you actually feel that for somebody. So I appreciate what you shared.
Yeah. I'll share one thing, being married, and how it's made me affect my marriage. Would that be okay if I share that?
Yeah, go for it.
Because you just made me think about it. One thing that I learned through all this, and I know before, was, I did think, hey, I get married, this will all disappear because I can have sex now, right? That's what I thought. I think a lot of people think that, and in many groups I've been in, people have shared that, and that they were surprised that it didn't. But I learned something going through it with like my wife, is being honest and open with her, and developing like our relationship. I used to think that, hey, connection with my wife or intimacy just meant sex. And what I've learned is that there's so many different facets to intimacy and connection. There's different things. There's emotional intimacy where I can like be honest with like what I'm actually feeling. There's intellectual intimacy where I can like share like my thoughts or like my dreams or what I'm excited about. There's this experiential intimacy, which is going, when we go on trips together, or or doing fun things together. And then there's physical intimacy, which includes sex, but it's also like holding her hand or giving her a hug, or some of these things. And when you think about intimacy in that way, like you can have that intimacy, that connection with everybody. Like you can have this experiential intimacy, like doing fun things with your roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like opportunity to learn and develop intimacy with people around you. So that way, and I never did that. I didn't do that really before. And I wasn't open and honest and vulnerable with really anyone before my marriage. So I got married and had no idea how to actually be intimate in any way. And so the only way I thought was like now okay was just the sex way. But then our marriage struggled so much because we weren't really connected like in any other way. And so over the last 4 years have been really like working, recovering, and trying to understand and be honest and open, like to develop intimacy in all these different areas of life has been like such a beautiful and wonderful thing for us. And our marriage now, we've been married this July will be 10 years.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
The last, if you look at the last even the last 2 years where it's really like blossomed, it was a lot of hard work the first bit, but the last 2 years compared to like the first 6, it's not even the same marriage. Like I look at pictures and I see like that, some like the fun and things we did and stuff. Like I also see 2 people that I don't even know anymore, like from
Wow.
the early years of marriage, because I didn't even know who I was then. I didn't know who my wife was. She didn't know who she was. Like there was so much emptiness there that we just didn't know, that we didn't know there was anything more. So it's weird to say, but I firmly feel grateful for, this addiction that I've had to pornography, because I feel like if it was any other like more socially accepted coping mechanism, like if maybe I just was a workaholic, or maybe I played too many video games, or something like maybe more socially acceptable, I don't think it would have brought us to that brokenness, that state where it was like we're willing to do anything, and it wouldn't have led us to where we're at now in this marriage, this life that's completely different than anything I've really ever been exposed to before. So
yeah, that's beautiful. And just being able to create those experiences with people. I've tried to talk with a lot of people on campus and try to be very emotionally open. Like, hey, like I was talking with a girl earlier today, like if there is something you want to share with me, I've talked with a lot of students on campus. I care a lot about the students on this campus. So if you need to share something, then share it, because I think that's so powerful, because it can lead to, like you said, the experiential, and just being able to, have that growth and that connection, and that's a wonderful thing, just being able to have that, just be able to be open and not worry about those things. So I wanted to share really briefly, there's this analogy of a $20 bill. Have you heard of this analogy?
I don't think so.
So the analogy is that this person gives this girl a $20 bill, and then he asks, "Can I have it back?" So she gives it back. Then he rips the $20 bill, and then he's like, steps on it, jumps on it, and everything like that. And she's like, "Can I have it back?" And he's like, "No." And then he's like, "Well, why do you want it back?" She's like, "It's still worth the $20." And you can be crumpled, you can get thrown into a fire, everything like that, but you're still worth the whole $20. And I think that's really something I would share, is like, if you're feeling broken or really low, I mean, again, this is just a moment in your life, and you're still worth the entire amount that you've always been worth. So
I like that.
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Rhett, and just for your experiences and stuff. We'll definitely have you on again if you'd like. Is there any other thoughts you'd like to share before we leave the scene?
I think only last thought would just be, no matter where you're at, whether you are struggling with porn or struggling with anything else, I say it's so worth it to put in the effort to push through it, and to really fight for the life that you want to live, whatever that is. But it's so worth it to fight for it, and go for it, and take the risk, even if it means you might fail. I have a friend who likes to say that failure is evidence of faith, because it means you must have had faith to at least try. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid to live, your dreams, and whatever might be holding you back, just face it. And if you need help with it, find someone to help. There's no shame in getting help, but face it. Have the faith to try. Have the faith to be willing to fail, and go for it and live your dream.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely weren't meant to face our battles in life alone. We have God. We have so many other people to help us out, and how God sees us. I'm sure if we could see that, we'd all be completely blown away. We were talking about this earlier, like just living below what we could potentially be living, but He still has so much love and compassion for us. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on again, Rhett, and I guess we'll see what happens in the next little bit, but I wish you the best of everything, and thank you again for everything you shared. And yeah, guys, check out Rhett on LinkedIn, or if you'd like to reach out to him, I'm sure there's other ways.
Yeah. I don't know the best way. I'm not really on a whole lot of social media. It hasn't always been the safest place.
Yeah.
for me. But I can leave you my phone number or email, put in the show notes or something, or put something in the show notes. Would that work? Or
Yeah. So we'll have something in the show notes if you'd like to reach out to Rhett. He would be happy to respond back and help out however he can. So cool. Well, you guys aren't alone in this battle, whatever it is. So Rhett is definitely a conqueror through a lot of people and through a lot of faith and help. But yeah, cool. Well, thanks again, Rhett.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
You're doing wonderful things. You're a wonderful person. Really glad I met you.
Yeah.
So thanks for talking with me for a year ago, whenever that was.
Of course, man. I'm glad I met you.
Yeah, it's been good. Cool. All right. Well, we went a little over, but